Hello my wonderful viewers and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to take another look at Kaiju number 8, surprise, surprise, and this is going to be a bit of a theory video. We all are looking forward to, we all expect, I'd almost go so far as to say we all know that eventually Kafka is going to lose control of the mutually shared Kaiju number 8 body to the intelligence that is the little guy. That tiny little bug Kaiju that climbed down in his mouth and started this whole story off in the beginning. We've seen it happen once, and it happened as you'd absolutely expect with a Shonen Jump manga, in the intensity of battle. When Director General Iso Shinomiya was testing Kafka to see how much control he really had, the Director General pushed Kafka until the Kaiju intelligence took over. And in that scene we saw that both Kikoru and the Director General recognized immediately when it was no longer Kafka in control of that body. It wasn't the transformation that did it. The body did not look significantly different pre-takeover and post-takeover. But both the Director General and his daughter, aside from everybody else, were able to immediately tell that that was no longer a human intelligence in control of the body. Then, of course, the Kaiju intelligence started raging, struggling, trying to defend the Director General, trying to defeat the Kaiju that it saw in the Director General, trying to defeat Kaiju number 2. So we're all looking for that to happen again, and the story is setting it up as if the characters in the story think that this is going to be a big flashy moment when Kafka loses control of the body, goes berserk, and just goes on a battle rage. And the best outcome they can hope for is that he is currently pointed at an enemy Kaiju when this happens, giving Captain Narumi the chance to come up behind him and put him out of his misery, essentially. And I think that's kind of what we're all looking forward to, except we know Matsumoto. We know that Matsumoto loves to hide major plot points behind common shonen tropes. My favorite example of this being the fact that Kaiju need to release steam to cool down was first revealed to us under the common shonen trope of potty humor, of somebody having to take a leak, which goes all the way back to Dragon Ball Z for the anime and manga that came over to the States. There were certain funny things that happened in especially the anime of Dragon Ball Z. Well, major turning plot points that happened because somebody had to take a leak. Now, in Kaiju number 8, because as manga and anime fans, we've accepted that when there was that scene with Kafka and Arino right after the transformation first happened, we didn't really think too much about it, but that was our first hint that these suits need to vent steam in order to cool down. On a side note, we haven't seen Kaiju number 8 vent steam since then, suggesting that because of Kafka's negative emotional reaction to the venting, the little guy has not caused the body to vent steam, which leads to overheating problems. But that's neither here nor there for the purpose of this video. What the point of this video is that eventually Kafka is going to lose control of the body. The massive, semi-demonic-like power within him is going to surge up in the heat of battle and overwhelm him. And Matsumoto tends to like to play these things complicated, straight but complex. So how is that going to happen? How and when is Kaiju number 8 Kafka going to lose control of the Kaiju number 8 body? And what's going to happen next? Well, as we saw in the scene with Director General Shinomiya, it was only as far as we knew, it was only the Director General and Kikoru who were actively watching him and engaging with him, and who knew enough about Kafka to recognize when his behavior altered subtly. They were the only ones who recognized when he had lost control. And since then, he hasn't lost control at all. So I think now that the little guy's intelligence has been, no doubt, expanding with everything he's been learning from Kafka and Kafka's interactions during this time, I don't think that when the time comes, I don't think that when Kafka does inevitably lose control of the body, that it's going to be obvious. Because it's almost certainly going to happen in the middle of a pitched and intense battle, when Kafka has pushed his body to the limit, when Kafka has burned up all the energy that he has and Kafka's body shuts down basically from starvation, Oh, I think there was a reference to the fact that Kafka needs better nutrients in this chapter, because in chapter 69, he uses the word gourmet to describe his meal. Now, either he was being sarcastic, because military meals are distinctly not gourmet, or the scientists who are working with him figured out that he needed specific nutrients and have been feeding him a regimented diet to support his body. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, when he loses control, if he loses control in the middle of a pitched battle, I doubt that anybody but Kokoru, and possibly at this point Vice Captain Hoshina, who's been training with him, would recognize it. Because the only sign was that there was a marked change, during the last time was there a marked change in fighting style. Kafka's fighting style became less human and became more kaiju. But this time, the little guy, we have no reason to assume that he hasn't been absorbing all of Kafka's combat training from Vice Captain Hoshina. The little guy adapted and learned very quickly when fighting with the Director General. So there might be a subtle change in fighting that gives Hoshina and Kokoru, if they're close enough to observe it and in that sector of the battle, a chance to know. But I think when it comes down to it, what's going to cue everybody in, what's going to let control know that Kafka's no longer in control, is when he stops following orders. Because as much as the little guy has shown that he likes to kill kaiju, he doesn't seem to take instructions well. Kafka does have to fight him for control when the little guy determines that Kafka is no longer acting in their mutual interests. However, the little guy has been absorbing much from Kafka, and with chapter 69, we get the return of that little girl. And I've mentioned in previous videos that the very first positive emotion, the very first rush of dopamine that the little guy would have experienced, and again, just like with the taking a leak out of the nipples joke, and the Kaiju number 8 not venting steam after that, it really does seem that the little guy is taking emotional cues from Kafka. And the very first rush of positive feedback the little guy would have experienced was after rescuing the little girl and showing compassion to her, and when she thanked him. And she's shown up again in chapter 69, expressing loyalty to, as she calls it, Mr. Kaiju Man. So what we have here is a dynamic where Kafka is continually showing compassion to those around him while transformed, and the little guy is observing this. So here is my pipe dream. Here's what I would love to see turn out. Now, it might be different, but I really don't think that Matsumoto is going to play the berserker mode, taking Kafka's mind straight. So here it is. They're in the defense forces in the middle of a pitched battle with Kaiju number 9, or possibly a lesser Kaiju. Kaiju number 8 has had to fully transform. Kafka and the little guy are working together as this team, struggling to take out a superior enemy. They get cornered. There's no one near enough to notice that Kafka's fighting style suddenly changes when Kafka reaches that wall. He no longer has the fuel in his human body to power the joint body, and so the little guy takes over because Kafka has passed out from essentially exhaustion. The little guy takes over and starts fighting as a kaiju again, but this time honed by the combat powers that he's picked up from Kafka's training with Vice Captain Hoshina. So no one notices at first that Kafka has lost control of the body, that Kafka is probably going to be comatose inside the Kaiju number 8 body. But eventually, the Kaiju number 8 will be given an order that he either doesn't understand or can't comprehend on a complex level that Kafka would, or that Kaiju number 8, the little guy, just doesn't feel like following. Specifically, I think he's given an order to abandon a certain level area that still has civilians in it in preference for a higher priority combat target. But Kaiju number 8, the little guy, no longer acting under Kafka's direct command, but having Kafka's sense of compassion, loyalty, and duty, is, instead of abandoning that area, going to refuse orders and stay and defend the civilians. He's going to be the little girl's ideal Mr. Kaiju Man, which will, of course, lead to consequences, and if Kafka can't wake up in time, they'll figure out that he's gone. But because his first act as a pure Kaiju was to protect civilians, in preference to even combating other Kaiju, they'll be stuck with a choice. They now have a choice to keep what is essentially a tame kaiju rather than the kaiju weapon under a human's command that they've been dealing with so far. And in their desperation, there's a good chance that they're going to say, if this thing is still willing to kill other kaiju for us, if during that process it will be prioritizing saving human lives, why not keep it? And basically, that very traumatic for Kafka's friends, having his corpse walking around like that. But that might be one day the way it goes down. Now, at this point, I don't have any feeling for how soon they're going to have Kafka's mind come back from that, or how long they'll have the little guy walking around in control of the body with Kafka essentially comatose. But I really do think that we're going to get to see a scene like that, a scene where the little guy does take complete control, or rather is just handed complete control because Kafka is no longer able to fuel the body. So what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Are we going to get to see that scene where it's revealed that Kafka's mind is no longer in control of the Kaiju number 8 body? Hit that like and subscribe button. Leave your theories below the video. I'd really love to hear what you think. And remember, I have on October 1st, actually October 2nd this year of 2022, I will be launching Humans Are Weird, title to be revealed at the launch, unless you're my Patreon, in which case you've already seen the title. But the third book in the Humans Are Weird series. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers. Humans Are Weird, we took a vote, and Humans Are Weird, I have the data. 2 books in a series of human absurdity. Go check out these short story collections. What will our little green friends think of us when we finally do make it to space? Find out the answer in 2 books of human absurdity. Humans Are Weird, we took a vote, and Humans Are Weird, I have the data. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Google Play.